Welcome to episode 117. Let's talk about what you have to say today.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
I'm Mark Zockoll. Today, we're going to look at our inbox. We haven't reviewed our inbox for a little bit, especially following our 5 episodes, 2 series in a row. Episodes number, it would be 110, 111. No, I'm sorry, 109, and then 110. And then 111, 12, and 13. The first 2 being with Mr. Mark Minkus of the Private School Leader Podcast. And the last 3, of course, being our Sex Education in Christian Schools series. And let's see what you all had to say about those. Before we get to your reviews, though, let's go ahead and talk about the Herzog Foundation a little bit more.
Are you ready to take your school's mission to the next level? This summer, the Herzog Foundation Institute invites Christian school administrators like you to join the transformative workshops designed to equip, inspire, and empower you for the coming school year. Why should you attend? Learn from top Christian education leaders, network with passionate peers from across the nation, gain practical strategies to strengthen your school's impact. Workshop locations vary throughout the year, but this summer and specifically in the month of July, you can find workshops in Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri. Spots are limited and filling fast. Visit herzogfoundation.com/institute to view workshop details and secure your seat today. Remember, it's free. Just get yourself there. Don't miss this opportunity to renew your vision, sharpen your skills, and lead your school with confidence. The future of Christian education starts with you. Sign up for a Herzog Foundation Institute summer workshop now. All right. What do the people have to say?
I am thankful that we have feedback.
If you remember back to the beginning, that's what this was really all about. Like, we're going to start talking, but we want the conversation to keep rolling, and we want to hear from the peeps.
And this is to go back to the beginning.
So this is where we are. So half. Oh, wow. We jumped into that real quick.
Exactly. Building a community is a big deal for us. It's been a big deal for you, for me since the very start. And I've already, not only have we capitalized financially, no, I'm joking. We have not seriously capitalized financially off the community we built so far, but we have capitalized socially quite tremendously. Yeah. And we've been encouraged, and it's been, it's always a blessing to be a blessing to somebody else. And it seems as though we have been. We're very thankful for that. So let's keep going. Let's get into the ones that, just get into what has been said, specifically, as noted previously about those 2 separate series that we did. I'll just mention in general, we have seen an uptick in our listeners. We've seen an uptick in our feedback. We have seen an uptick in a lot of ways over these the last couple of weeks because of those episodes. We can't really put it back on anything else besides you really liked hearing from Mr. Minkus, and you really liked hearing maybe you didn't like it at all. Maybe it was cringy. Maybe you hated it. But you stayed with us, and we gained a lot of followers over the course of episodes 111 through 113, which is that sex ed and Christian school. So let's hear what you had to say, and let's actually get there. Go, Matt, you want to read off some of these for us?
I'll do the best I can, although it's really small.
Oh, no.
And I don't have my glasses. And you know what? I don't even know if those glasses do anything anymore. I'm getting to that age in life where it's like, you know what? I don't know if these things do anything. Well, much better.
Maybe what you need to do, though, is go in for a new appointment.
Yeah, that probably needs to happen as well. But, all right, we're going to start with the first one. It says, thank you so much. I enjoyed listening to the episode. Say nothing else. That's really what we needed. Just right there. Somebody actually enjoyed listening. But I'll continue. Enjoyed listening to the episode, and I'm going to check out a couple more. Thanks for what you do on the podcast. I'm sure I'll find it to be a help to me. If you have any other specific episodes that you recommend to me as a new administrator, I'd love
to hear them.
And then there's
Yeah.
the follow-up with
There's a
the
follow-up,
I already listened to the one in June and I found it helpful. So this comes to us by way of, as noted here, a new administrator, someone who we reached out to with the Christian Administrator Spotlight and said, hey, just want you to know, we prayed for you. And they started listening. And they had, from my understanding, they had actually listened to a couple beforehand, but now they became more faithful listeners once they have been prayed for, and especially once they saw this one again, the June principles timeline for June. So we are very excited about those timeline series episodes. And again, we've said it before, but we are excited to put those into a workshop and to bring that workshop closer to you. Especially at the KCEA conference and the ODAX conference coming up in the fall. So next up, that prayer touched my heart. Thank you again. I'm excited to listen to your podcast. Now that, again, this is coming from those that we reach out to, the Christian administrators that we reach out to, and note to them that we have prayed for them on the air. And if you would like someone to, if you are listening to this and you're an administrator, but you have a vice principal, you have an assistant or a or you just want to point to a peer and say, hey, they need some encouragement as well, let us know. In fact, I will tell you that Mrs. Debbie Hudson out in California, she sent us a list of her peer administrators from the California Christian School Association or the Association of California Christian Schools or something like that. Out there, it's untethered. They're not official, but they do have this ongoing thread. And she wanted to make sure that we shouted each one of them out and gave them their encouragement, their caffeine encouragement. So we are going to be doing that in the upcoming episodes as we walk through the Minnesota Association of Christian Schools right now. Soon we'll be walking through the California Association of Christian Schools, as long as we have enough content, that is, of course.
Oh, I don't think we have to worry about that.
Isn't that crazy?
I want to say
really,
with this,
yeah.
With these first two, we spotlight administrators on each episode, and we reach out to them and we let them know that we shouted them out and we prayed for them. And these two in particular said, "Oh wow, thank you." And now I'm keyed into the episode. I just want to clarify that our purpose and idea for spotlighting is not to manually add more listeners.
It's a
or
nice
grow
byproduct.
Our audience. I mean, it is a byproduct, but that was not the motivation.
Sure.
This podcast was created by principals for principals, and of course we want to get into everybody's ear, but more so we want to be an encouragement to as many people as we can, and even if that means one by one, like that's what we wanted to do just from the get-go. So so that's why we love doing that, these shout outs, these spotlights. Please, if we shout you out and you haven't listened to any episodes, don't feel guilty about that. But start listening to the podcast.
Yeah, but then start listening. Like turn that into action. Like feel bad, but then actually do something about it. I'll also note this. We have very recently come to a point that Matt and I have reached our bandwidth, and we're going to need some help. So you may have seen, if you're clued into our social media, our Facebook, our Instagram. If you're not, please go on and follow, because we do put out some interesting things on our Facebook, our Instagram. And one of the things we put out was a call for some help. Call for some help with our social media, specifically with our YouTube shorts and postings. And in this next, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you can actually see it says, prior to me seeing the title of this week's episode, I would have told you that I wasn't sure which one I'm more excited about, the meeting of the episode. The meeting being described there is this administrator reached out to us saying, hey, I saw your post and I got somebody for you. I got a guy for you should reach out to for some help. If you've noticed that our shorts or our reels have not been being posted as consistently as they were previously, it's because, like I said before, Matt and I have reached our bandwidth and we're getting some help. And that help is going to be starting very soon. But you might have noticed a blip in the last few weeks of less content, and that's the reason for it. But we're really ready to have not only great content, but more consistent content coming up on our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube pages than we've had previously. Go check those out, follow those, like those, and make sure they're a part of your feed so that we're getting into yours, so the algorithm says, hey, we should push these out to more people like them, like these school administrators. But reading the rest of this one, prior to me seeing the title of this week's episode, which again, that was the first episode, that was episode 111, Sex Education in Christian Schools, Hear Us Out, Please, which a lot of you did. We're thankful for that. I would have told you I wasn't sure which one I was more excited about, the meeting with his contact or the episode. I can confidently say that this week's episode takes the cake. Kind of a taboo topic, and I'm here for it. Definitely not discussed even at the admin level as much as it should be. Hey, that's what God is talking about at the very first, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's it. Where nothing is off limits in the Christian Principles podcast. We will talk about
you can't say
anything. We will talk about whatever you want us to say. Whatever you want us to talk about, we'll talk about it.
And we're not even getting paid for this. But you start paying us for this, and hey, no. Yes, everything. I should, and to Matt's point, what we ought to say here is that there is nothing under the God-made sun that, within the confines of biblical morality, is off limits to the Christian. I think with this, especially with violence, and I don't know why, when the mentor of mine first said that to me, it made me think of crime scene investigators and FBI agents and those who would pursue serial killers and those like it. And we think back to when those criminal justice schools started reviewing cases about serial killers. Well, does that fly in the face of look on those things which are, I'm messing up this verse horribly, but keeping in mind those things which are good, honest, of good report, virtue, praise, think on those things? Well, I mean, professionally speaking, this person's basically living in a profession where they're very much focused on some of the nastiest stuff that happens in the human world. And I think about my previous gym teacher, and she was the oldest woman to ever graduate from the Maryland State Police Academy, and she is now she's now a detective in a local county, and she works on horrendous juvenile cases. And I don't want to really go further in that way. And I think I'm glad Christians doing that. I'm glad someone who believes in Jesus Christ is the one doing that work. So in the same way, so it got a little bit dark, but when I think about what you say, anything's possible. Yeah, we should be able to, in a righteous manner, have a discussion that I appreciate here is being said. Kind of a taboo topic. Yeah, sure. Should there really be that many of those?
Yeah, and again, what's the motivation? Because if you're dwelling on it because it interests you. Like, I'm fascinated with, death. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Not a great thing to dwell on if that's the motivation. But if the motivation is if I can take these things so that, one, I can help others prevent this from happening, as you were saying with police, or even for us in a school, if we can do something better, then great. That's what we should be doing. So I'll get into this next one here. Hey, listening to the new podcast, and this is again the Sex Education in Christian Schools, and I agree with what is being stated, but the simplest answer to why sex, suicide, and drugs discussed in schools is we address these issues as they are discussed in Scripture. The Bible addresses the hard issues for us, but the problem is that even in Christian education, Scriptures are cherry-picked. That's a really good point. Cherry-picking Scriptures, and hard topics are often skipped over. This is why I believe the importance of going verse by verse, book by book in Bible class. Curriculum is great, but often bypasses these topics you are currently discussing.
Right.
And then we're going to not cherry pick, but kind of go through where this goes through different topics as you're going through Scripture of not our mutual brother-in-law likes to call these bunny trails, and I always laugh because it's rabbit trails, not
it's a rabbit trail. Yeah, I don't know where bunny trails. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It is every time I hear it, I'm like, you got that wrong, man. Start over.
Says it all the time. It's like bunny slopes, like maybe it's a skiing reference. I don't know, but he goes on these bunny trails. But
Mm-hmm.
I always say in my Bible classes, these aren't rabbit trails. These aren't, as we're driving by, we might as well stop and talk about. These are discussed. These are
Mm-hmm.
principles that do apply to these various situations. I love, I'm preparing for this fall again to be teaching through the Old Testament, and the Old Testament is one of those things where Christians or even other people hear the Old Testament and they think, well, that doesn't pertain to us anymore. But there is so much foundational information that if you just look at it and listen to what it says, and that's what our audience member is reminding us, that these, by avoiding these topics, we are avoiding a lot of what Scripture is all about. And there are examples that are given here. I don't know if you want to go through those or not.
Yeah, I'll pick that up in a second. But I'm very open to the point being made by the listener, because if I'm in a small group setting or a Sunday school setting, and we go into any sort of study that doesn't bring us back to the scriptures, I walk away feeling like, that wasn't really Sunday school, or that wasn't really a small group time. Because if I'm not actually in the scriptures, if I'm not actually getting into the verses and getting into the Bible, but just reading, what the commentator has to say, or what the journalist has to say, whatever the author has to say, whatever it happens to be, I do walk away a bit annoyed. Almost like, why did I spend that time there in Bible study that wasn't Bible study? So I can absolutely hear where this listener is coming from, and want to say, if our Bible classes err from getting into the meat of scriptures, well, then they err pretty hard, because we should absolutely be in the meat of scriptures, probably more than anything else, right? We can agree on that.
Right.
So he points out, for men, Genesis 38 is a great time to discuss sexual sin, and for females, Rahab the harlot. Interesting point made. In something else that could be a way of a jumping off point for those who are interested in how they might want to approach this in their schools. Here he's suggesting in Bible class and at these certain times when you would hit these scriptural portions. And then he goes on to suicides able to be discussed when the Bible addresses Samson by the thought of being a hero for others. Samson is I've heard so many conflicting thoughts on Samson,
Yeah.
and especially his end of life, and was he at that point reunited with God? Was he not? Was he in a proper frame in the request he made? All of that being said, there is also suicide involved there. So we had touched on suicide when we talked about the sex ed series. So a good point made here. Abimelech, Saul in 1 Samuel, due to fear. Oh, I skipped one. Sorry. Let's start that over. Next up, Abimelech asked to have his armor bearer kill him because of shame. Another suicide thought. Saul in 1 Samuel 34, due to fear. Alcohol abuse in Ephesians 5:18, 1 Peter 5:8, super-minded, so drug abuse. And then the wrap-up point. My point is intentionally teach the scriptures, and by doing so, these topics are naturally addressed biblically. And we'll go ahead and end the thoughts there that he was trying to bring up to us about the scriptures, and giving us an understanding of where he was coming from, just very practically. But then he has a couple of thoughts for the actual podcast itself. I love the podcast. I don't listen to them all, but I do periodically drop in. Hey, that's fine. We're happy to have your ears whenever you can give us your ears, because you are busy. Absolutely. I hear him say, teach the Bible and go over what the Bible has to say. At the same time, I do think that there are times when those verses are hit and they're not gone over. So right. I go back to, it's intentional. It has to be intentional, because you could pull 15 different things from any certain verse you want to go to, or any story you want to go to. But if you're not being intentional about pulling sex education out of that verse, well, you are going to go to something more simple, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has to be purposeful. I think at the end of the day, intentional, purposeful, because it's easy. I know even for me, it's easy to talk about Samson. The Lord gave him the strength to bring down the house. Like, okay. And we ultimately, I think, wrap that account up by saying, ultimately Samson realized that his dependence on God was the most important thing. But how many times have I ever discussed suicide, in that situation? Because the ultimate point there is his turning to God. And so that kind of gets overlooked, but it is a point to discuss. So yeah, it's good. We've got to make sure that we are being intentional with our conversations. And then this I think is this the last one we have?
Yeah, this is the last one we're going to hit as far as
Last one.
feedback we got, because it's a full-on email and it's great. So
it was good. When this one came in, I chuckled, cried, all those things. Being over 50 plus, you've made me think more about sex in the past week than I have in the past few years. Laughing face.
Laughing face.
Yes. Kudos for handling a sensitive topic with wisdom and insights.
Aww.
I like the case study you presented of how you handled it at your school. Wise to have a health professional and another adult as observers present. I am not saying our experience is a recommendation, just giving you feedback. This is how we handle sex education in our school. So
I really like that
he gave us the feedback here.
This is what they do. I like this. This is great. This is so much fun to see. We've had this happen before with people on the principal's timeline or athletics as well. This is how we handle it and share this out.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I before we jump into that though, we can't not emphasize that somebody believes that they heard wisdom coming out of our lips.
I know.
Wow.
That was so kind. He doesn't have to lie to him. I mean, lying is not the best way forward, but it definitely got you on the pod. So,
All right. So here's what was stated. The pastor there is adamant that only parents should cover the details with their kids when they are ready. I believe he and his wife have done that with their own kids, but I seriously doubt most parents actually cover it. So again, that's when we discussed that in the episode, that yes, we believe parents are the primary responsibility, but are we doing the job of checking that those things are being discussed?
And again, is that the job? Do we want to form it as we're checking up on parents, or more just like, this is what we believe we ought to do? This is what we want to have students walking away knowing. So we're going to go ahead and throw our hat over the fence and make sure they do from our end.
I want to say this too, because several, almost a little over a year ago now, I did a Sunday school class for parents on parenting, and it does make me question, because here's a pastor who's making a decision of, we shouldn't be going to great detail in the school. I'm drawing that conclusion. I'm assuming that's what he's saying. So my response to that will be, is the pastor going to be intentional in discussing with the parents what they should be talking about with their kids and when? Because that is the role of the church, to be guiding and directing the parents. So if you're going to, I can understand that stance, but you can't wash your hands of it. Ultimately, that's what we're saying. If we're just trying to push the responsibility off, we still need to make sure we're doing our job.
And we're reviewing whether or not we want to at some point take up that burden. And he notes here, I seriously doubt most parents actually cover it. And that's exactly, we would agree. So it's interesting. We would disagree, or I say disagree is too strong. We celebrate the pastor's decision of that ministry. It's not what we did, but we also very much agree with the last note. Love that. Awesome. So then he notes in the second point, the last pace in the ACE biology course geared for ninth graders covers human reproduction. And while it doesn't cover the act in detail, it was well written and gives biblical perspectives for sex. My policy is that when I know a teen has reached the pace, I contact his or her parents and recommend they study with them for the test and use the opportunity for further conversations and explanations. Again, partnering very, very closely with the parent. And he ends it with, might be a good excuse for the talk instead of putting it off. Smiley face. There you go.
There you go.
Church, home, and school working together. There is a school hand in hand with the home saying, hey, by the way, we're getting to this point. I mean, that flies in the face of just recently, there was the Supreme Court decided on the case of Maryland parents who had sued the county. the County Board of Ed because they were not given an opt-out option for the teaching of the content that was sexually explicit and hugely progressive concerning LGBTQ plus issues and whatnot. And the Supreme Court sided with them. Here, it's pretty much the opposite. That's what we're getting from him. Is we're covering this. Please take this and run with it as much as you feel, as much as you need to. Maybe this is a good idea. So.
And his last point here, in my case, my parents gave me Clyde Naremore's book, Almost 12, when I turned 11, which explained the changes to expect in puberty and the basics of sex. But they never had the talk beyond that. He also says, I was a student in the 70s when I was in 10th grade, and the youth pastor had a meeting with the senior high boys one morning where he was quite blunt about the need for mental and physical purity and was clear about the dangers of pornography, which we did not get into. I'm sure that's going to be another episode for us, but the dangers of pornography, that made an impression on me. So two points there. The parents, the way his parents handled it was giving him a book, which would, I think I said on the episode that I never really wanted to have that conversation with my parents. But that was it. They had books that didn't go to great detail, but gave me sufficient information. So that's kind of the way I was directed as well. And I get that. But then, having that intentional discussion, not just to let me fill in all the details for you. This youth pastor is taking the position of, hey, warning, there are dangers out there. You've got to be careful. And what parent, if we take it into consideration, what parent, when their child becomes 16 and they get their driver's license, they just hand them the keys and say, you've got it. I don't need to tell you anything, or even preparing for the driver's license. You don't do that. You go through and you tell them, here are the things to watch out for. You got to be careful whenever you're coming up to, a yield sign, even though a lot of people ignore that thing. You got to make sure that you're watching so that you're not going to get into an accident. That's easy for us to do. Why not when it comes to morality? Are we not taking the time to go through those warning signs for our kids? And I'm glad that youth pastor took that time. And that's kind of what we're asking as teachers. We're with them far more than youth pastors get to be with them. So, we need to be watching for those things too.
The next thing we're going to do in this episode, having wrapped up our inbox review, is actually our reviews on Apple Podcasts. So we have never done this before. We've never actually taken you to the reviews that have been written for us and showed you a few of them. So let's hear from those who have taken the time to go ahead and put up a review. And if you haven't, could you please do it? The reviews, 15 a word or more, 5-star review is kind of a big deal for us. Please just take a moment on Apple Podcast if you haven't there. Spotify, you don't have to write anything. It's just a star scale, and drop us some thoughts. Give what is useful about it. If this is your good grass cutting listen, or your ride to school, whatever it is you do, please drop us a line and tell us what you have to think about it. So, great resource. I am new to a role as administrator and have found this podcast to be extremely helpful resource as I begin to navigate everything in my new role. Thank you. I find us, by the way, this is from the Great Troubler, which is a great name. Great Troubler. I do find that the more we have these thoughts, the more we have these episodes, I am thinking more and more about those who are just starting out, those who are just coming into, and things I would want to tell them. How about the next one?
Let me see. Can I see the whole thing? Here we go. Encouraging content for leaders in Christian schools. This is from, sorry, that nickname has been taken. Also, great name. There are several podcasts geared for secular teachers and instructional leaders. This program is tailored for Christian school leaders and is full of practical advice, humorous stories. That's good. Somebody thinks they're funny.
Yeah, somebody.
Thought-provoking discussion and biblical principles. Go back in the archives and enjoy some episodes on topics that pique your interest. wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was well written.
Review.
I like that one. Peak. We said peak in this one.
Pique
If you
your
are on
interest.
the administration team, if you must listen for Christian school leaders. If you are on the administration team of a Christian school, you should be listening to this podcast. Each episode focuses on a specific aspect of overseeing a school and provides valuable insight to consider for your own ministry. These are very, very, very nice. This is by D. Ash. Oh, that's our friend Daniel Ashton out in California.
Daniel Ashton.
California.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who's had to call us out on missing a couple things in our principal timeline. So
Right.
we're very
Oh,
thankful
man.
for Mr. Ashton.
Mr. Ashton's very helpful. All right, last one.
All right. I love it. And I'm not even a teacher. I have so enjoyed these short but sweet episodes as a parent and the wife of a teacher. In addition to interesting content, I often get a laugh out of Matt and Mark's banter. Because that's what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, move us into our...
that's cool.
Oh, yeah, it's a blessing.
Let's
It really is
spotlight.
a blessing.
We got to
Love it.
spotlight somebody.
Spotlight somebody, Matt.
Yes. For our administrator spotlight on this episode, we are shouting out Pastor Larry Johnson, pastor and principal of Grace Christian School in Mankato, Minnesota.
Mankato. Now, we were looking at the what Mr. Johnson does there, and we noticed there's a couple other Mr. Johnsons on the staff. Seems like this might be a family ministry, as in a bunch of the family are pitching in to see this ministry run, and what a blessing that happens to be. It does seem like Mr. Johnson has the administrator/faculty role that so many of you have, and some of us choose to keep because we want to keep that foot in the classroom. Others of us, wish we could, but just have no time for it. And some you have to do it, or you wouldn't have a school. Just like Matt has to paint the classrooms, or whatever it happens to be. But we're going to pray for you now, Mr. Johnson, and your upcoming 25-26 enrollment, as we saw on the website. And thank you for being part of the Minnesota Association of Christian Schools. I'm going to pray for you now. Dear Father, we think of Mr. Johnson. We think of the school there. GCS, may they, in the 25-26 school year, reach new heights for you, whether that be in enrollment, whether that be in their student body, mindedness of you, mindedness of their Christianity, mindedness of their growth in you, whatever happens to be. Take them from where they are and move them closer to the image of your Son, and we will thank you and praise you for this. Give Mr. Johnson clarity this summer as he prepares not only his lesson plans, of course, but also all that he has to do to secure the faculty and staff, to be the HR representative, I'm sure, as well, to perhaps even run the books and everything else that a man in his position has to do at a ministry like GCS there in Mankato, where they are doing a great work for you. We love you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. And as always, we love that you guys are listening to us, but we also love listening to you. So continue to give us as much feedback as you could possibly do.
Absolutely. Thanks for growing with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.